Have you ever wondered why, at the exact moment you decide to rise, the people you love the most begin to vanish? It's a chilling paradox. Your greatest growth often triggers your most painful decoupling. Imagine your life as a ship setting sail into the vast unknown of a higher purpose. As you catch the wind, you notice something terrifying. The anchors you once relied on are being cut, not by your enemies, but by a divine hand. Most people mistake this for tragedy. They don't realize they are being drafted into a cosmic realignment where pain isn't a punishment, but a strategic preparation. There is a secret survival code hidden within your darkest trials, an invisible armor designed for the storms you haven't even seen yet. Today, I'm pulling back the veil on the 3 signs that you aren't being abandoned. You are being led. But stay with me until the very end, because the final sign is the only thing standing between your survival and your total collapse in the coming storm. Imagine your life as a massive vessel, a ship built for a voyage that most people are too afraid to even dream of. For years, you've been docked at the harbor, surrounded by familiar faces, comfortable routines, and the safety of the shore. But then something shifts. You feel a calling, a divine pull toward the deep horizon. You decide to level up, to follow God, to chase a purpose that actually matters. And that's when the glitch happens. Instead of a cheering crowd, you start hearing the sound of snapping ropes. People you've known for a decade suddenly drift away. Friends stop calling. Family members start looking at you like you've joined a cult or lost your mind. It's lonely, it's disorienting, and it feels like a failure. But here is the secret that nobody tells you. This isn't a disaster. It is a strategic, surgical, great decoupling. Look at the data of human history. There is a phenomenon often called the solitude of the leader. Statistical analysis of the world's most significant life shifts shows that 85% of major destiny transitions begin with a painful, involuntary collapse of the social circle. It's a recurring pattern in the lives of visionaries, saints, and pioneers. When your trajectory changes, your passenger list has to change too. Not everyone has the lungs for the altitude you're heading toward. If you're sailing for a new continent, you can't stay tethered to people who are terrified of losing sight of the shore. Think about the butterfly. We love the imagery of flight, but we ignore the gore of the process. For a butterfly to fly, it doesn't just grow wings. It has to literally dissolve and destroy the cocoon that once protected it. If it stays attached to its old home, it dies as a worm. This is the natural purge. It's nature's way of saying that your previous environment is now your greatest threat. In your life, some relationships are cocoons. They were perfect for who you were, but they are toxic for who you are becoming. This brings us to one of the most controversial political statements ever made by the ultimate strategist of the soul. In Luke 14:26, Jesus drops a line that sounds absolutely ruthless to the modern ear. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, he cannot be my disciple. Now let's get logic straight. This isn't about emotional malice. This is about ruthless prioritization. In the high-stakes game of fulfilling a divine calling, you cannot afford a democracy of opinions. You cannot run your destiny by a committee of people who don't see the vision. When God leads, he doesn't just give you new things. He clears the deck. He allows the ebb and flow of relationships to reveal who is cargo and who is crew. The cargo is there for the ride as long as the weather is nice. The crew is there because they believe in the destination. If you find yourself standing alone on the pier today, watching old attachments drift into the fog. Don't chase them. Don't beg them to stay. The great decoupling isn't about being unloved. It's about being unburdened. You are being prepared for a weight of glory that those old ropes simply couldn't hold. The question isn't why they left. The question is, now that you're light enough to move, are you ready for the storm that's actually coming? Now that the ropes have snapped and your ship is drifting away from the shore of your old life, you find yourself in a place you never asked to be. It's cold, it's gray, and it feels like a dead end. Welcome to the hole. In the world of high-stakes destiny, we call this the prisoner's logic. Most people see a crisis as a sign that they've taken a wrong turn. But if you look at the architecture of greatness, you'll realize that the Hamnook, the dungeon, is actually the most sophisticated leadership academy ever designed. Let's talk about Joseph. If you look at his life through a standard lens, it's a tragedy. He was the favorite son, the one with the dreamer status, who suddenly found himself sold like a piece of meat by his own blood. Then he gets framed for a crime he didn't commit and tossed into a hole in the ground in a foreign land. On paper, Joseph was a victim of terrible luck, but in the logic of the divine, there is no such thing as luck. There is only preparation. Think about it logically. How does a shepherd boy from the outskirts of Canaan learn to manage the entire economy of the most powerful empire on earth? You don't get that kind of expertise from a textbook. You get it in the dungeon. Joseph wasn't rotting in prison. He was being fast-tracked through an internship from hell. He had to learn the psychology of prisoners, the logistics of limited resources, and the stoicism required to lead when everyone else has given up. If he hadn't been betrayed by his brothers, he would have stayed a spoiled kid in a colorful coat. If he hadn't been enslaved, he never would have entered the Egyptian system. Every tragedy was a necessary step on the ladder to the throne. This is the molding tool. Pain isn't an accident, it's a surgical instrument. In the world of metallurgy, we have a very specific law. If you want 24-karat gold, you don't just ask the metal to be pure, you subject it to 1,000 degrees Celsius. At that temperature, the heat becomes so intense that the dross, the impurities, the ego, the hidden weaknesses, has no choice but to rise to the surface so it can be skimmed away. You aren't being burned to be destroyed. You are being burned so that for the first time in your life, you can be real. When you are in a difficult season, your brain wants to scream that God has forgotten you. But the logic tells a different story. Romans 8:28 isn't just a comforting quote for a greeting card. It is a divine optimization algorithm. It states that all things, the betrayals, the bankruptcies, the silent nights, and the crushing loneliness, work together for good. In computer science, an algorithm takes messy, chaotic data and processes it to reach a specific, perfect output. That is exactly what is happening to you right now. There is no waste in this system. Not a single tear you've shed is garbage. It's all data being fed into the machine of your destiny to produce a version of you that is unbreakable. The world tells you that if it hurts, it's wrong. But the strategic reality is that the intensity of your pain is often a direct indicator of the scale of your future responsibility. You are being molded because the version of you that walked into that dungeon isn't strong enough to wear the crown that's waiting outside. So stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this making of me? Because once you understand the prisoner's logic, you realize that the walls aren't there to keep you in. They are there to keep the distractions out while the master craftsman finishes his work on your soul. You are in the middle of a masterpiece, And the most painful strokes of the brush are the ones that create the most depth. Stay in the room. The algorithm is working. Once you've survived the isolation of the great decoupling and endured the heat of the prisoner's logic, you're left with one burning, high-stakes question. How do I know I'm actually on the right path? In a world saturated with noise, fake news, and ego-driven manifestation, how do you distinguish between a divine lead and a self-inflicted disaster? This isn't just about faith. It's about divine intelligence. It's about learning to read a signal that operates on a frequency most people have forgotten how to tune into. Imagine you are deep in enemy territory. You have no map, only a radio. To survive, you need more than just a gut feeling. You need a triple validation system. This is the fail-safe protocol used by the most spiritually elite to ensure they aren't just walking off a cliff. The first layer of this intelligence is the source code, or what the ancient scriptures call the word. It's often said that your word is a lamp to my feet. Think about that imagery. A lamp doesn't give you a 5-year business plan or a 20-mile floodlight view of the future. It gives you enough light for exactly one step. If you're waiting for the whole forest to light up before you move, you'll be sitting in the dark forever. Divine intelligence works on a need-to-know basis. The word is your baseline. If the direction you're feeling doesn't align with the fundamental laws of the source code, it's not a signal. It's just static. But because humans are masters of self-deception, we have the second layer, external peer review. Proverbs 15:22 is a brutal piece of strategic advice. Without consultation, plans are frustrated. If you are the only one who thinks your plan is brilliant, you are in a very dangerous position. God often confirms his whisper through the voices of others, not the yes men or the critics, but what we call wise counsel. These are the people who have sought the same wisdom and can see the blind spots you're too emotional to notice. When your internal signal and your external counsel start to harmonize, the signal is getting stronger. Then comes the third and perhaps most frustrating layer, phenomenal feedback. This is where the doors start to slam shut. We often pray for open doors, but in the world of divine intelligence, a closed door is a massive piece of intel. It's a no that saves your life. When the path becomes rocky, when trials hit, we usually assume we've failed. But look at the history of the greats. Adversity is often the very marker that proves you are on the right trail. It's like a GPS recalibrating. Just as the Israelites wandered the desert to prepare for the promised land, your rocky season is actually the terrain required to build the muscles you'll need for the destination. Speaking of the Israelites, they had the ultimate cinematic GPS, a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. Think about the sheer, terrifying logic of that. They didn't have to guess. If the fire moved, they moved. If it stayed, they stayed. It was a binary system of guidance. Today, we don't have a physical fire in the sky, but we have something even more sophisticated, a supernatural peace that transcends logic. You've been there, at a crossroads where the logical choice says go left, but your soul feels a profound, unshakable calm about going right. That peace is the pillar of fire for the modern age. It's the final confirmation. When you have the word, the counsel, and that inexplicable peace, you aren't just guessing anymore. You are operating on divine intelligence. You are no longer just a passenger in your life. You are a tactical operator moving with a precision that the world simply cannot understand. You've moved past the why me and entered the what's next, and that is exactly where the real power begins. So you've followed the signals, you've endured the whole, and now you're exhausted. You are at the end of your rope. Your resources are gone, Your reputation is bruised, and your stamina is at zero. In any other story, this is where the hero fails. But in the architecture of the soul, this is exactly where the real fight begins. We've been fed a lie our entire lives. The lie that strength is about how much you can carry, how much you can grind, and how much you can fake being unbreakable. But there is a massive, counterintuitive glitch in the matrix of power. It's a secret tactic I call the weaponization of weakness. Think about this like a high-level military stratagem. In conventional warfare, a commander does everything to hide their weakness. They want to look bigger and more fortified than they actually are. But there is a much more dangerous tactic, the feigned collapse. When an opponent thinks you are utterly depleted, they drop their guard. They move in for what they think is an easy kill, completely unaware that by emptying yourself of your own limited fragile resources, you have just cleared the stage for a much larger force to intervene. You aren't retreating, you are baiting the darkness into a trap. This is the sharp, analytical logic behind 2 Corinthians 12:9. My power is made perfect in weakness. Let that sink in. It doesn't say divine power is a nice addition to your strength. It says it is perfected only when you hit rock bottom. It's a mathematical certainty. If you are 50% strong in your own ego, there is only 50% room for the infinite to move. But when you are at 0%, when you finally admit that you can't think, fight, or hustle your way out of the storm, you become a 100% conductor for a power that literally created the stars. The world tells you that being strong means never needing help. That's not strength. That's a bottleneck. Real power is realizing that your human capacity is a tiny flickering battery, while the divine is an infinite power grid. When you stop white-knuckling your life and start delighting in your limitations, you aren't surrendering to defeat. You are plugging into the source. This is why the most dangerous person on a spiritual battlefield isn't the one with the biggest ego or the most confidence. It's the person who says, I am weak, I am tired, and I am finished. So now, God, it's your turn. To the physical eye, that person looks defeated. But to the spiritual eye, that person has just become a nuclear sun. They've invited the good shepherd to prepare a table in the very presence of their enemies. This is the ultimate paradox, a matma, a secret code that breaks every rule of this world. The world says, be strong so you can win. The divine says, be weak so I can win through you. If you feel like you're failing today, if you feel like you're too broken to continue, stop panicking. You are finally at the exact coordinate where true authority can reach you. You've moved past the illusion of self-control and entered the reality of divine command. And once you learn to weaponize your weakness, there is no authority on this earth and no storm in this life that can stop the momentum of what's coming next. You aren't just surviving, you're becoming a vessel for the impossible. If you've made it this far, you've realized that your life isn't just a series of random coincidences. It's a high-stakes operation. But here is the most jarring truth of all. Most of us are losing because we are fighting the wrong enemy. We spend our lives exhausted, wrestling with flesh and blood, the boss who overlooked us, the partner who betrayed us, or the system that seems rigged against us. But that is a classic tactical diversion. In the world of cosmic warfare, those people are just the front. They are the symptoms, not the disease. The real conflict is happening in a layered reality, a grid of authorities and cosmic powers that you can't see with your eyes but can feel in your soul. To survive this, you don't need more hustle. You need a different kind of hardware. You need the armor blueprints. Think of this armor not as some dusty medieval relic, but as a sophisticated, high-tech suit designed for survival in an environment that is actively trying to delete you. Most people walk into the world completely naked, wondering why they feel so bruised by the end of the day. They have no combat readiness. First, look at the belt of truth. In an era of deep fakes, gaslighting, and alternative facts, truth is the only thing that provides structural integrity. If you aren't cinched in by what is actually real, by the source code, everything else falls apart. Without truth, your armor is just a collection of loose parts. Truth is what stabilizes your core when the world tries to knock you off balance with lies about who you are. Then there is the breastplate of righteousness. In military terms, this is your vital organ protection. It's your integrity. When you live a life that doesn't align with your calling, you leave a massive gap over your heart. Every time you compromise your values, you're essentially handing the enemy a clear shot. Righteousness isn't about being perfect or religious. It's about being whole. It's about having a heart that is shielded by a clear conscience, making you immune to the poison of shame and regret. But the most critical piece of tech in your arsenal is the shield of faith. Think of this as a spiritual Iron Dome defense system. The world is constantly firing flaming darts at you. Thoughts of depression, sudden waves of anxiety, the what-ifs that keep you up at 3 a.m. These aren't just your own thoughts. They are incoming projectiles designed to set your life on fire. Faith is the interceptor. It doesn't mean the darts stop coming. It means you have the equipment to extinguish them before they touch your skin. You see, the cosmic warfare isn't fought with fists. It's fought with alertness. The secret to wearing this armor isn't a one-time event. It's a state of being. It's what happens when you pray at all times in the Spirit. Most people treat prayer like a 911 call for emergencies. But in this story, prayer is your communication link to high command. It's how you download the latest intel, how you recalibrate your sensors, and how you stay connected to the Nuaneng Luong Votan, the infinite energy source that we talked about earlier. The paradox is that the more you realize the battle is spiritual, the more effective you become in the physical. You stop wasting energy on petty arguments and start focusing on the structures. You stop being a victim of the present darkness and start becoming a ruler within it. You are no longer just a civilian caught in the crossfire. You are an operative, fully geared, fully conscious, and standing firm while everyone else is running for cover. The question isn't whether the war is coming, it's already here. The only question is, are you dressed for it? Because once you understand the cosmic warfare, you realize that the only way to lose is to forget who and what you are actually fighting. After the decoupling, the dungeon, the signals, and the warfare, you finally arrive at the ultimate destination. But here is the final twist. The destination isn't a tropical island or a life without problems. It is a state of being that the world finds completely illogical. We call it the inner sanctuary. Think about a lighthouse. It doesn't exist in a calm, sunny meadow. Its entire purpose, its very job description, is to stand firm in the middle of a fierce, bone-crushing storm. The waves are screaming, the wind is trying to rip its foundation out, but the light inside never even flickers. This is the logic of Philippians 4:7. Real peace is not the absence of the storm. It is the presence of an internal stillness that the storm cannot touch. If you can explain why you're calm, that's just logic. But when your bank account is empty, your friends are gone, and the world is falling apart, yet you still feel a profound sense of it is well. That is a peace that surpasses all understanding. It is a divine signal that you are finally anchored in the source. This journey you've been on, the pain, the isolation, the rockiness, it wasn't a mistake. We need to stop looking at the desert as a graveyard. The reality is much more profound. God didn't lead you into the wilderness to kill you. He led you there to kill the old version of you. He had to burn away the version of you that was addicted to people's approval, the version that was terrified of being alone, the version that relied on its own limited strength. You had to die to your past so you could be resurrected into your purpose. So here is your system reboot. Right now, wherever you are, it's time to update your soul's operating system. It starts with a simple, tactical surrender. Say to the silence, I am letting go of the past. I am deleting the files of hurt, sin, and regret. I am choosing to trust the Good Shepherd over my own understanding. This isn't just a religious ritual. It is a declaration of authority. You are reclaiming your heart as a secret place where the cosmic powers of darkness have no jurisdiction. You are inviting the Holy Spirit to repair the scars and fill the voids that the world left behind. As you stand at this crossroads today, I want you to imagine yourself walking up to a mirror. You might see the same tired eyes or the same scars from the battle. But look closer. Beneath the surface, you are now wearing a suit of armor that no weapon can penetrate. You have the belt of truth, the shield of faith, and the peace that defies the headlines. You are no longer the person who started this video. You are a refined, weaponized, and peaceful operative of a higher kingdom. The storm outside might still be raging. The relationships might still be changing. But you are the lighthouse. You've been equipped with everything you need, the wisdom, the resources, and the boldness to walk into your future with authority. The great decoupling is over. The great alignment has begun. Now step out of the harbor. The sea is vast, the calling is high, and for the first time in your life, you are truly ready to sail. Stay strong, stand firm, and let the light in you guide the way. Amen.